Welcome to episode 17 of Mia Mina Narrates. I'm your host, Mia Mina. Thanks for joining me in my library. This episode features part 7 of There's a Killer in My Town by Charlie Blackmore, aka Beautiful Nightmare. It is the 8th part of an 11-part series I am honored to be allowed to bring to you. This series is planned to release every Wednesday at 5:45 p.m. Central, 6:45 p.m. Eastern, via YouTube Premiere through October to December 2nd. Come join in the discussion as the video is being watched for the first time. Before we begin, please remember to like the video, leave a comment, share the video out, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell if you haven't already so you're notified when I release new videos. You don't want to miss any of this series. Now, let me whisper in your ears. Dean, this isn't going to be a typical letter. I hope you don't mind. You have no idea who I am, but if you keep reading, then you'll find out. I should warn you, though, the events I'm about to explain will most likely be upsetting. You spent 3 days locked down away in the Snow Creek Police Department after being interrogated. Dimitri Jenkins was the last person that heard your voice. You had decided to not speak one word after that conversation, and honestly, it was for the best. The time you spent in jail surrounded by your former co-workers must have been difficult for you. I'm sure it wasn't easy to spend 3 months surrounded by people who absolutely despised you while awaiting the trial. Now, the trial, on the other hand, well, that's a whole different story. But rest assured, I am going to tell you about it. The trial began about 3 months after you were arrested due to the fact that the prosecuting attorney had to prepare, and because you had to find an attorney to represent you. It was actually hard to find someone to be your attorney, considering that one of their best had been murdered. However, one kind soul decided to take your case. The first day of the trial began pretty smoothly at first. The charges were presented, which you pleaded not guilty due to insanity. The prosecuting and defense attorneys gave their opening statements, their ideas of what happened. The prosecuting attorney then began to question the witnesses that he had chosen. He introduced many pieces of evidence that seemingly fucked you over. However, the defense attorney was able to cross-examine the witness to get them to admit that they weren't really sure about anything that had taken place. This continued for the next few weeks, the trial getting more and more intense. The families of the victims were literally on the edge of their seats due to the anticipation of what would be the verdict. Everyone was certain that you would spend the rest of your days locked away in prison. Yet the attorney representing you was the only person in the room who truly believed you were innocent. Your attorney was able to present her evidence, question her witnesses, all of whom were reliable sources, and she seemed to have the jury in your corner. The closing statements were slightly different than the ones they had given in the beginning. The jury had to be sequestered in order to reach a verdict, but they were deadlocked for too long, which led to a mistrial. The months following the mistrial had angered the people of Snow Creek. They absolutely hated you and wanted nothing more than to see you burn in hell for the things you had done. This led to your second trial. It was much like your first one, except the jury was different, and they had found you guilty of all charges. The judge sentenced you to spend the rest of your life in prison without parole, and you said nothing. Your first few weeks at the prison in Haven Valley was as expected. You kept to yourself and stayed out of trouble despite what the other inmates had planned for you. That was 19 years ago. I know what you're thinking. 19 years? Yes, 19 years ago you spent 2 weeks in prison without any trouble. That was until you attacked one of the guards. You were pulled into the warden's office and questioned about the reason why you had attacked him, but you didn't answer. No, you just shook your head when they asked if you remembered doing it. You were evaluated by a highly skilled psychiatrist whom declared you mentally unstable to remain in prison, so they transferred you to the mental asylum in Haven Valley. Reliable sources say that you were none too thrilled about being locked away in that place, but you didn't get a choice in the matter. You were there for one reason and one reason only: to be diagnosed. They didn't know at the time what kind of case they had, yet they worked hard putting you through every test required, placing you on different medications to see if anything helped. Alas, nothing did. What the psychiatrists at the time weren't aware of was that they wouldn't find a diagnosis for another 2 years. You were locked away in a ward of the asylum specifically designed for the criminally insane, where you spent day after day sitting in your room just staring out at the world that you could no longer be a part of. You had refused to eat for quite some time until they held you down and forced you to swallow the crap they served on a plate. They forced you to take different medications in order for them to monitor your behavior and see which ones worked and which ones didn't. It was simply a way for them to try to get a proper diagnosis. They indeed were able to properly diagnose you with what they referred to as DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder, or more commonly referred to as Multiple Personality Disorder, or in simpler terms, split personality. No, this isn't possible, you're most likely thinking. It's true, though. Dean Randall has a second personality that he had no idea even existed. Your main personality, the loving husband and big brother, the smart sheriff and sophisticated townsfolk, was the one that people had all come to know and love. The second personality, on the other hand, the one known as the Snow Creek Killer, is the more dominant personality. While you were sleeping, he was out committing crime, murdering the people whom you loved dearly. The day your husband, Marcus, died was during one of your blackouts, the same that happened when you killed Vaughn Jenkins. I'm sorry if this comes as a surprise to you, but it's the truth. You were, and still are, sick, mentally. The medical field, psychiatry in particular, has been very fascinated with you since the diagnosis of your dissociative identity disorder. It was an uncommon thing to see in a town as small as Snow Creek. Hell, even in Haven Valley, yet it happened. Now the psychiatrist that I had mentioned earlier, the one who diagnosed you, was also a professor at Sonata University. His name was Dr. Hollingsworth. He was so intrigued with your case that he decided to use it as a reference when he would be in the middle of a lecture. He was so proud of discovering your mental disorder that he had decided to take 1.5 years to write a well-thought-out and detailed thesis about how something like that, like you, could happen. You were the most successful case of his entire career. Sadly, he is no longer with us. He passed away 3 years ago due to a heart condition. I myself am still studying to be a psychiatrist, even though I'm 29 years old. I'd be lying if I said that you weren't the reason I had entered the medical field in the first place, wanting to major in psychiatry to better help myself understand why people are mentally ill. You're wondering how I know all this stuff about you, huh? Well, allow me to explain. The first time I had learned about you was when I turned 16. My mom didn't want to tell me about you because she felt it would ruin my life. She was right in a way. You did ruin my life, even if it wasn't your intention at the time. My mom was a kind, warm-hearted woman. She was the best mom that anyone could have asked for. And I'm thankful for being able to actually say that, even if she wasn't truly my mom. That's right. She told me everything there was to know about you. Showed me every single scrap of newspaper clipping and media report about the murders that happened. She handed me the old newspapers that covered the 2 trials you were involved in and how the people in Snow Creek reacted. I studied everything there was to know about you throughout high school, which is why I chose to become a psychiatrist. Dr. Hollingsworth was my professor in college. He had taken a real liking to me once he found out who I was. He had asked me all kinds of questions about you that I really wasn't able to answer. I could only say the things that my mom had told me because she had known you better than anyone at that point in time. You are a spectacular person to study. I've met with you a few times, but I doubt you even remember me. I doubt you even recognized who I was. You didn't say anything if you did. Do you have any idea how fucking hard it was for me growing up knowing that the infamous Dean Randall was my father? Of course you don't, because you couldn't have known that this is how your life would turn out. There is no way that you could have known that my life would ultimately suffer because of the shit you did, all because you had a mental disorder. I was teased about being related to you and bullied every single day. It finally got to the point that my classmates had convinced me that I would grow up to become a mentally ill woman who could be capable of committing heinous crimes like my father had. I know you had good intentions when you left me with Mom. I know you were constantly thinking about me and trying to make sure that I wouldn't be involved in all of this. However, I was, and still am. But I accept it now. I am married to a wonderful man who loves me, despite knowing that my father is a serial killer. My husband and I have a 5-year-old son named Damien. You would probably love him more than you ever loved Mom, your husband, or even me. I have requested to see you many times, not as a psychiatrist, but as your daughter, yet you turned me away and continued to do so. It's been 3 years since the last time that I had seen you. I could tell the difference between my dad and the Snow Creek Killer. Maybe things might have turned out better if I had written you sooner and explained the situation. Maybe things would be different now. You'd be able to meet your grandson. I wish that he would have a chance to know the person that I remember, the man that would come to my house every weekend to see me, the man whom would bring me presents because he wanted me to know just how much he loved me and how much he thought about me while he was away. I am truly sorry that this is the way you have to find out about everything. I wish I didn't have to be the one to tell you any of this, but life is unpredictable. My mom, your sister, passed away 2 years ago due to battling breast cancer while I was growing up. She was one tough-ass woman. I know that my birth mom died while giving birth to me, and you were just a teenager when that happened. I know the truth about everything, and it's honestly relieving. I'm able to at least tell people that I might have had a weird childhood, difficult adolescence, and troubling adulthood, but I couldn't be happier with the life I have. You are the reason why I will be able to help others who suffer a mental illness, and I thank you for that. You are the one person whom I really wish to get to know better, but I understand you don't want to see me because of how you are. I understand that you want to be left alone, and while I may not write to you anymore, just know that I am still hoping that one day you will change your mind and let me bring my family to meet you. I hope that you will allow me the chance to hug you and tell you that I'm glad that you're my father. I love you, Dad. I just want you to know that. Callie. Thank you for listening to Part 7 of There's a Killer in My Town by Beautiful Nightmare, aka Charlie Blackmore. For this reading, I'm using the paperback version of the book published on the 20th of July 2020. If you want to get your own, there's a link in the description. While you're there, you can also get her just published book of short stories. I'll have the link for you to choose the paperback or Kindle version in the description. You can follow her on Amazon or on one of her Twitter accounts. Both are linked in the description as well. So now we are hearing from the other side of the letters. Hello, Callie. Now we know who Callie is in relationship to Dean. Are you surprised? Dean's in an asylum now. He was diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, or DID, while Dean, the sheriff and husband, was someone who would never do these horrible murders. The dominant personality, which he had no idea existed, was the Snow Creek Killer. How would you feel if you were in this situation? As Dean, finding out that part of your mind was capable of killing those you cared about. As Callie, finding out your father was the Snow Creek Killer. We will hear more from Callie, but that's all I'm saying. I'm not giving any spoilers. If you have read the book, please do the same. Let me know what you think in the comments. While you're down there, please give the video a like and share it out. If you aren't subscribed, consider subscribing and ringing the bell till it rings so you don't miss the next part. I want to say thank you to all who have subscribed. I appreciate your faith in me and enjoyment of my content. Thank you to everyone who has been so welcoming, supportive, and helpful. I couldn't do this without you. Until we meet again, have a wonderful day or night, and be safe.